Joining me now in a first on CNBC interview is Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Secretary Lutnick, it's great to have you back on Overtime. Welcome.
What a fun day to be on your show today.
So last week you sat down with my colleague Brian Sullivan and you said there's a deal, we're on the precipice of announcing it. Was it this deal with the UK that you were referencing?
It was, but you know, Donald Trump, he made it better. That's the way it works. So I had the deal done, and then we showed it to the president, and he said, what's the next move you want to make? And then he made the call to the Prime Minister of the UK, and he made the deal better. And you just got to let the best deal maker in the world make his deals. He really fights for America, and he delivers for America, and it's so much fun to work for him.
Do you have anything else that's close to the finish line here, waiting in the wings?
Well, what happens, and you've seen it in this deal, I mean, look at the depth, the rigor, and the intensity. So many products, so many details. This is not sort of a soft deal. This is a detailed, analytical model between two countries, really getting it right for us both. So when you start doing bigger and bigger economies, remember, Britain is the 6th largest in the world. As you get to these bigger and bigger economies, there's just a huge amount of work, a huge amount. And, you know, you talk about India, Japan, Korea. I mean, these are just huge. In the European Union, wow, there's so much work. And they just take time, but we're going to get there.
Can you get there by July 8th?
I think we will get there by July 8th. I think what the president's been saying is, what we're going to start to do is we're going to start to have templates. You know, so we'll do a small country or two, and then we'll have a template, and we'll say, you know what? These 20 or 30 countries are economically similar. Let's go over their products. Let's go get it right, and let's go give them the model of how they want to do it. And if they want to modify it a little bit, that's fine. But you're going to see over the next month or so, we're going to roll out dozens of deals.
Okay.
Because we'll find categories of countries that it'll work out just fine.
So despite broader deal details, is that 10% base tariff rate the new baseline? Is that the new normal? Does that stay no matter what country, what deal?
I think that stays, but that is, as the president said, the low rate. I mean, think about the UK. They had a balanced trade with the United States of America. Now think of all these other countries with the European Union, $235 billion trade deficit for us. I mean, they sell us more than we sell them, of $235 billion. That's a lot of work to fix. So the 10% baseline is for those countries that have balanced budget with us that are the best. And then those who had trade deficits are going to have a higher tariff. Now, if they really open their market and they really go to town and say, look, we really want to get to fair and balanced trade with America, then the best they can do is 10%. Most likely they'll be higher, but the best they can be is 10%.
Okay. Let's talk China. I realize you're not part of the envoy that's going to those talks this weekend, but the president did say that he expects a, quote, good weekend with China. What would be defined as good?
Well, de-escalation, right? Right now you have 145% and 125%. Those are decoupling numbers. Those are numbers where you don't do business with each other. And obviously, China, as the president says, has a huge trade deficit with us, both directly and through other people. You know, they sell Vietnam $80-odd billion worth of things in Vietnam, then marks them up and sells it to us for $100 billion a year. So, you know, huge trade deficits with China, directly and indirectly. They want to do business with us. We want to work it out with them. So de-escalating, bringing those rates down to where they could be or they should be, I think is Scott Bessent's goal. I think it's the Chinese delegation's goal as well. And that's what the president hopes is a good outcome, is a de-escalating world where we go back to trading with each other, and then we work on a big deal together.
You're negotiating the other, 17 deals with trading partners right now. How much is China factoring?
Wait. How come I only got 17 deals?
Is it more?
I got like 150 countries to do.
Okay. So you're negotiating all of these other deals. How much is China factoring into those negotiations?
Less than you think. Our job is not to try to single out China, not to do this and that with respect to China. Our job is, let's go get free and fair and open trade with all these different countries. We are not focused. We're focused on China, with China, but with respect to other countries, we want fair trade. We want reasonable trade. if a country is doing enormous amounts of business with China, then that portion of their business should have the same tariff as China. But if they're doing business on their own and their own things, like Indonesia, right? I meet the trade minister of Indonesia, and he says, we're the largest car manufacturer in the world. And you'd say, really? Indonesia? He says, yes, we make matchbox cars, right? So, that's fine. So what do we want? We want a low tariff on those kind of products, right? And a higher tariff on products that make a difference to us, semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, things that matter that we want to reshore. We want to do that smart. I think you saw a lot of smart in today's deal. And I think what you're going to see is Donald Trump is going to deliver incredibly smart, thoughtful, and rigorous trade deals that are going to be great for America. Remember, if we have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit and we cut that 25%, only 25%, that means we export another $300 billion. That's 1 point of GDP produced by the guy who sits behind me in that White House. 1 point of GDP just by him. And then if you start building those factories that he's talked about, that's another 2 points of GDP. That's 3 points a year driven by the guy in the Oval Office. Is pretty cool.
I want to stick with semiconductors because your agency confirmed plans to repeal the Biden-era AI diffusion rule. This places export curbs and bans on advanced AI chips. When does that happen, and is there a framework that's going to replace it?
Yeah, so we are going to throw that in the trash bin where it belongs next week, okay? So next week that's going to go in the trash bin, and we're going to come out with a new policy. Because remember, when I led a delegation to Auschwitz, right, for the anniversary, for the 80th anniversary of freeing Auschwitz, and the Polish prime minister came up to me and said, what have I done that we would be tier 3 for semiconductor chips? And I was like, I couldn't think of anything that Poland had ever done to us that they would treat them that badly. So what we're going to do is we're going to treat our allies incredibly well. They can buy our chips, but they have to do it in a data center that's operated by an approved American data center operator, someone we trust, and that is connected to a cloud of someone we trust. So trusted data center operator, trusted cloud provider, and that will allow us to really free all our allies to buy chips. And the key last part of that idea, and this is what we're kicking around, and this is where we're leaning, is we want 50% of all of the greatest chips in the world domestic. 50% outside, 50% in America. So America always has the firepower to drive AI domestically. So we'll let all these countries buy if they do it correctly, but they got to also invest here to make sure we have the firepower always in America. That's the right thinking. That's the way we're thinking about it at the Department of Commerce.
Interesting, especially since AI is not only an economic issue and a technological issue, but also a national security one, increasingly. Finally, Secretary Lutnick, I have to ask you about the reporting that has broken in the past hour or so that the president is considering raising the tax rate on the highest earners. Are you in favor of that?
I am. If the president's cool with it, I am definitely cool with it. I think the idea of rolling back the discount that he gave, remember in 2017 he cut the rate from 39.6 to 37, and if he wants to try to go back to 39.6 and take that money and redirect it to no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security, I am all on board for that. Remember, the politics of all this is really in the president's hands. He knows it better than anybody else. But if you want to know what my support is, I stand right behind them on that thought. That sounds like an excellent thing for the country. But again, that politics is all about Donald Trump. I'll leave that to him.
Okay. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, thank you for joining me. Appreciate the time and insights.
Great to see you.
Well, shifting gears, we have another earnings report.